Okay, we're going to start. Corey, are we up?
Yep, we are up and running.
Today we have speakers talking about tactful self-promotion. So here we are. I'm Lori Spies with Office Centers. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you at all of our other locations. I know we have people joining us from France and from Minnetonka, downtown, and at International Plaza. So if there are questions from any of the people at other locations, make sure that you get them to us, and we can make sure that our speakers have time at the end of the day. I want you also to remember another self-promotion, right? That the second week in August, that's August 8th through the 12th, I believe, is International Co-working Day, and we have a lot of fun events coming and happening in the centers that week. We have 3 different speakers for one on Tuesday morning, one on Wednesday afternoon, one on Thursday afternoon, along with a Blackjack Friday, and we've got some contests running. So we really want you to make sure that you look at this week at Office Centers when it comes out on Monday and see if there's anything that you might want to participate in. We'd love to have you. Today we have career coaches, Nancy and Richard, and they've worked with thousands of clients seeking career success, whether laid off, starting a new job, feeling stuck at mid-career. We've had those moments, haven't we, Nancy?
Oh, yeah.
Or starting your own business. This year they published Power Your Career, The Art of Tactful Self-Promotion at Work, a book that provides a foundational model, practical strategies, and real-life examples of ways to promote your interests without violating your values or integrity, and without triggering a panic attack. We're delighted to have them with us today to share some strategies for building our reputation and taking charge of our careers. One of the things I learned when reading about them is, Nancy, you love fireworks. This has got to be a good month, big month for you. How fun is that? I couldn't stand it because you know what, I'm kind of in the closet work, fireworks freak myself. So I like that. In fact, where I go in the winter at Lake Havasu, they have the pyrotechnic the convention every year, and they show all the new stuff. It's really cool. You love it. And then I heard that you, Rich, are a magician. You started at age 14. So those were the things that I had in my notes that were so fascinating about the speakers today. So I would love to welcome Nancy and Richard, and thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll both get in the frame for a minute. Hello, people around the
globe, around the Twin Cities, anyway, for sure.
Yes. There you go. There we go.
Is it fair to assume that as small business owners and consultants that you constantly have to sell yourself?
Yes.
I see lots of heads nodding. Is self-promotion something that you love? We get mostly not too many yeses. So let me ask you, when you hear the term self-promotion, what words come to mind?
Bragging.
Bragging.
How do you say ego?
Ego. Yeah. Tact. That's great.
I mean celebrating.
Celebrating.
What else in the back?
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing, right. So the kinds of things we typically hear are bragging, obnoxious, it's all about me kind of thing. And so most people do not like the idea of self-promotion. Yet if we don't promote ourselves, what happens? Nobody else is going to do it for us. And you're going to miss out on clients that you want, the projects that you'd really like to do, and frankly, the rewards that you deserve. The truth is, you're always promoting something. The question is, are you promoting something that is helpful for you, your business, and your career? Now, we have worked with literally thousands of people on their careers over the last, I won't say how many years.
More than 10.
And we put together a model based on what we see has worked for people. And just to give you an overview, the first one is about positioning yourself. That is understanding and being in touch with and being able to articulate to other people what makes you different in a way that grabs people's ear. The second one is cultivating strategic relationships. If people don't know anything about your positioning and your brand, it's not very helpful to your career or your business. And finally, you can't personally know everybody that needs to know about your business. So it is also about increasing your visibility in constructive ways.
Just hit the button.
There we are. Okay.
That's this one.
That is that one. Okay.
Increase your visibility and the lights.
Okay. So we all need to do some of this. Some of us need to do more than others. But promoting ourselves is, we want to, it can be overwhelming. And we want to present some very simple, practical ways that everyone can use without, as Lori said, creating a panic attack.
Yeah, well, and I think what Nancy's just been talking about is that it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be a giant new project that you need to take on. When I first got engaged with this topic was years ago. I was working in Silicon Valley, and it turned out to be a very small but bold lesson for me about just how you can take advantage of a moment in time instead of a big plan. And so what was happening was I was in Silicon Valley. I was working with a partner, Laura, on a new career center we were putting up and building. She was working on all the training design, and I was working with the coaching model and helping train coaches. And one of the days we were walking across the campus, because this was California, so everything was outside. We ran into my boss, Tim, and he said, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" So Laura looked up and she said, "Oh, I'm doing great, Tim. I mean, I just finished the design for that interview skills training course that we're going to pilot on Friday. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really fun for people, and I think it's going to help them get jobs faster." And Tim said, "Well, that sounds interesting. Let me know how it goes." And she said, "I will." Then he turns to me and he says, "And how are you, Richard?" And I look up and I say, "Fine." Yeah, that was it. Fine. Now, Laura, who was at this point a really good coach, she used her elbow technique, which was after he left. She goes, "Richard," I can still sort of feel that blow, right? "Richard, what were you thinking? I mean, here you are doing all this creative work, and how is he going to know if you don't tell him?" How is he going to know if you don't tell him? So we left that meeting, and brief, 30 seconds was probably about a minute conversation. And Tim knew what Laura was doing, that she was excited about it, and what difference it was going to make for our clients. And what did he know about me? That I was just fun. Now, to my credit, I could have done worse, right? For example, hey, Nancy, come in here. Make sure you're in.
Okay,
So,
I'm here.
hey, Nancy, how's it going?
Oh, just wrote this book, and I'm telling you, the marketing of it, it is really work. I didn't expect it, and it's work, a lot of work. And you?
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I mean, being an independent now, but it's just a grind, and trying to get all the work done and then get new clients at the same time. I mean, it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I agree. So, does this sound familiar sometimes? Instead of projecting ourselves with enthusiasm and confidence and adding value, it's so easy to slide into being a complainer. In fact, we wrote the book on tactful self-promotion, and we were speaking a couple of months ago, and as we were waiting, a young man came up to me and said, "Wow, it must be exciting to have written a book." And I kind of said what I just said before. It was a grind for the last 6 months. And I got the old jab coaching in the ribs. And Richard said, "I don't think anybody wants to buy a book on self-promotion from somebody who's complaining." So remember I said we're always promoting something. So the question is, are you promoting, are you promoting fine? Or are you promoting, I'm great? And being able to project what Laura did.
So what did Laura do so she was able to do that, right? I mean, she had to know, she had to be adding value. That's really the first thing in our book is be worthy. She had to be doing something of worth. And then she had to be able to articulate that, right? To be able to speak in the moment about what she was doing and what difference it was making, right? And she had to show up with enthusiasm. And that's really all she needed to do. She didn't have to say, I'm the best, I'm wonderful. She simply had to convey what she was doing, what difference she was making, and show up with a little bit of energy instead of a complaint, which all of us are very good at. So when you run into people out here in the world, do you ever get this question? So how's it going? How's your business going? How are things going? Right? What are some of the things you can say to convey a positive reputation, to help cultivate the kind of reputation that you want people to be able to pass on, instead of complaining or saying, oh, I'm doing all right? What are some of the responses that you have in that situation at work? Anybody?
I say never better.
Never better.
This is the best point in my 35-year career.
Great. And you usually say that with enthusiasm. I know that. Yes. How about anybody else?
I've heard people say like fabulous or whatever. They're like just some big exclamation.
Good.
So starting with energy and a positive statement, that conveys one thing.
Yeah, and then just adding some specifics in too, not just I'm great or never better, but like I'm working on some new stuff for my company.
So enthusiasm and also something that talks about your business and what you're doing.
And it can be something you're learning. Yeah, I just went to this this conference on leadership and got some really great ideas that I'm working on in this way or two. So you can talk about what you're learning, you can talk about what you're doing, but you want to be putting your best foot forward. Now, in order to do that in the moment, right, you want those stories and examples and the things you're pointing out about what you're working on to align with a larger idea. We have we're here, position ourselves. So, and you all should have a handout in front of you. I hope you do in the other locations that looks like this. And so we're kind of walking through parts of the model. But the first part there, it says craft your value proposition and then share accomplishments and learnings. We've been sort of talking about how you share accomplishments and learnings. So a whole chapter in the book about that, and given one example of how to do it. But in order to do that, we're sort of going to back up and say, well, what did Laura have to have in place in order, what's the bigger idea? What we call a value proposition. Some call it a brand promise or a positioning statement, right? It's that, what's your stake in the ground about what you're bringing to the market? And then Laura's story, right, wants to support that overall brand promise. So Laura's statement might be something like, I design training and programs that help people find jobs, great jobs, as quickly as possible. And you see how that has an outcome for somebody, right? Instead of, well, I'm a career coach and I help people, do assessment and decision making, and I'm really good at the Myers-Briggs. Okay, well, that doesn't do a lot. What's the outcome? I help people find jobs really fast. Now, she could spice that up a little bit. What would make it more interesting?
Giving a specific example.
So then she can add an example or a personality piece, because she had a lot of energy. So she could say, well, I help, I create training and programs that help people find really good jobs as quickly as possible and have a lot of fun in the process. Because nobody thinks of job search as fun. So you could add that. So now her story that she told supports that overall objective. So we got to think about what's the thing you're bringing to the market. What's the outcome that you want to produce? One of the stories I love, we heard just a couple of weeks ago from a friend of ours who was in San Francisco. And people think, well, that's, everybody, I'm going to say everybody, can have some purpose or mission or idea that they're bringing into the world. So he was walking around San Francisco and he ran into a kiosk. Didn't run into it, but he saw a kiosk where there's newspapers. And there weren't newspapers in it. There was somebody sitting in there playing the cello. Beautiful cello, right? And he was intrigued. He listened, gave a buck, and then he went up and started a conversation. Well, how long have you been a street musician? And this guy said, well, that's not really, a street performer. He said, that's not really how I see myself. And I said, well, how do you see yourself? And he said, well, I bring music where there isn't any. I bring music where there isn't any. So he wasn't out there sitting there, I'm a street performer. He had a purpose to what he was doing. So what's your purpose? What are you bringing to the market? What's the outcome or the value that you're delivering? That's the challenging question. And how do you bring it to life in a way that it's exciting, that people can remember it, that it can pass on, that other people can pass on to others? Because you want to be memorable, not just clear. Those are both important. Yeah. So one example I will give.
Great example.
Because it's tied to consulting. I wrote these down because they're one of the first one's kind of terrifying. So this is an OD consultant, organization development.
In the HR world.
Human resources, that's folks who, organization development, organizational effectiveness. So she came to us and she said, what do you do? And here's essentially what she said. Well, I'm an OD consultant, and I structure synergy between organizational silos to create multifunctional alignment that produces high engagement cultures. Yeah.
I want to talk to her.
Yeah, somebody just fell off their chair. So what's the problem with that? Is that a fine or a great statement?
Too much big words and jargon.
It's
A
jargon.
lot of jargon, which so many of us use.
It's easy to fall into. So I said, well, we work with her. What do you really do? What's the, help us understand. And she came up with something that was better. So I'm an OD consultant. I partner with leaders to create high engagement cultures. Right, I'm seeing that. It's better,
fine.
right? Leadership, and I help create high engagement cultures. It's fine. It's better. It's like me saying fine, but it's not Laura being great. So we kept working. Said, how do you bring that to life? She added a little bit more meat. Create high engagement cultures that attract top talent and high performance. There's maybe some outcomes, but it's still in the fine area. How do you make something really great is to reach for some vivid language, to reach for a metaphor or a picture that people can remember. So here's what she ended up with weeks later. Yeah, I help companies create workplaces where people can't wait to get there in the morning and they don't want to leave at night.
That's great. Paints a good picture.
So that's taking all of that jargon and saying, well, what's the outcome when you show up and you do your work? What's left behind? Well, it's a workplace where people can't wait to get there in the morning and they don't want to leave at night. Beautiful position. Not easy to get to.
And it makes people want to ask more questions. They want more, how do you do that? That's what you want people to do. You don't want to bore them to death with jargon.
So we assume that you have some idea of what you're bringing to the market. What we'd like you to do, I want to make sure I'm doing it at the right point here, is do a little bit of thinking yourself. And in fact, you can just partner up with a neighbor here. You can partner up with a neighbor where you are too. And I'm sure you have some ideas, and the ideas that you're outcome focused, what are the things you're bringing to the market, but just brainstorm a little about how you might take and make it more alive and more vivid and more memorable. And we're going to give you
3 or 4 minutes?
Yeah, 3 or 4 minutes to do that. And then we'll come back and
we'll hear about what the people here have come up with.
I don't know if folks there can email her.
Yep. If
If they have any questions or if you
Yes.
want to share something, send us something and we can comment on it here. All right.
Okay, we are back, and we are about to hear, did you hear anything that was really quite good, or even brilliant, or fine at least, from somebody else? Anybody have something to share?
You can read ours.
Sure. So, so we have an innovation training company, and so our statement was, we create innovators who challenge status quo and turn their ideas into reality.
That's pretty darn good.
Pretty darn good. Is that
Pretty darn.
something?
I like that. Pretty
Yes.
darn.
Have you used that?
No.
We just made it up right now.
That's new.
Wow. But Ellen, you are partners, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So say it again, and then I want to hear some reactions, just what works about it, or if you have any suggestions.
We create innovators who challenge the status quo and turn ideas into reality.
What strikes you about that?
Innovators.
Mm-hmm. That's the first word that sticks with me.
But turning it into reality too,
Yeah.
is very powerful.
Yes.
That's a real benefit.
Yes, and it's in plain English. I understand it, and I'm not quite in your field. Good.
Do you have, just let me ask, do you have particular, a particular audience? Innovators is very broad.
Yeah, we work with companies and executives to providing them with certain tools and methods and approaches to not only generate ideas, but then how to get them implemented. And that's part of the challenge to it. And so that's what we do with our training.
Just might be worth adding in innovators and working with executives and businesses that want, to drive innovation and turn it into reality. Just so it's easier to know who to refer you to.
Yeah. Anybody over here? What can you want to share it?
I help companies to transition exiting employees safely and with dignity and respect.
Okay. I don't know if people on the other sites heard this. I assist companies
to transition exiting employees
with safety and dignity and respect. Good. That's pretty clear on what you do.
So that they don't bring back a gun.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're
I was gonna say.
side, right? Employee, the employer. I represent the employer pays me, but the employee gets the services. So we're actually peers.
Yeah. So the benefits there are benefits to the employees so that they feel respected and they're better able to move on. And what's the benefit to the company?
Somebody doesn't get shot.
Okay. So
Right. Or
So it manages the risk.
yeah, it allows the remaining employees to maybe diminish some of the survivor remorse that can occur.
so
It also helps remaining employees minimize the survivor remorse, is what she said.
and become productive
And become
more
fast.
quickly, right? So that's
Right.
where I would go with the outcomes, right?
Mhm, right.
Is to think about the benefits, the outcomes, especially to the people that are going to pay you. So if you're talking to employers, say, well, that's where you.
That's what's in it for them.
I have to weigh it on both sides.
Right.
depending on what I'm talking about.
Correct.
I would think as the employer, one of the biggest things would be the reputation.
Yes.
I don't
That
want
too.
my disgruntled employee to leave and start, a blog site about how horrible we are.
Yes. So a recommendation to talk about the company's reputation in terms of what's in it for them. Good.
Cost effective.
Yes. So two good
Good,
ones.
a lot of great
Yes.
meat.
Certainly better than fine. So now this is something that normally takes some extensive work. We ask you to do something in about 4 minutes. So, but it is important, whether you are an employee somewhere or you have your own business, which most people here do, to be able to articulate that in a way that makes people want to know more. It excites them, it sticks with them, and they can repeat it to other people. Okay?
At this point, do you have any questions
Right.
about this whole area of positioning yourself before we move on to relationship building? Thoughts or questions? And you can email some stuff into if you'd like.
Okay? All right. Now, You can be great at what your brand statement is. You can be wonderful at talking about your accomplishments. But if nobody knows what you do, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good, does it? So the next bucket that we really work at is cultivating strategic relationships, which is, among many other things, is about building a strong network. Now, why do you want a good network? It's a way you get business. People refer you, and quite honestly, you know that people do business with folks that they know and they trust. It doesn't matter what your website looks like, what your tweets are like, what your blog is like, all the emails that you send out. They have to feel that they know you personally and trust you. So networking is critical to every business owner. Now, not all business owners act that way. And several years ago, I was working with a corporate lawyer who had left his organization and was going to open his own practice. So one of the things we did is a lot of assessment. And we had a really good assessment that compared the individual taking it to small business owners so we could diagnose what it is that you want to work on. And so I would say, and here's where you are, and here's where the average small business owner is. Went through a whole lot of it, and he finally stopped me and he said, I don't think you understand. I'm not going to be a small business owner. I'm going to practice law. And although I didn't say it, my thought was it's going to indeed be a very small business if he's just thinking of practicing law. Because doing good work is certainly not the same as getting good work. And that's the value of building the network. Now, how many of you feel like you are good at building and maintaining a really great a diverse network? Okay. Most of the people in this room, not everybody, but for those of you who are out there, it's critical. How many of you are, okay, no, I don't like it so much, and I'm really, quite honestly, not so good at it, which is a large part of the population, quite honestly. So for those of you who have some barriers, we all have barriers to doing networking. What are some of the barriers you have? You have, personally. Maybe even if you're good at it, you may have some areas where you're not still comfortable. Yes?
I don't want to bother other people.
Oh, I'm a bother. I don't have any value to add, of course. So if I go to talk to other people, I'm going to bother them. What are some of the other things that get in the way?
Lack of time.
Lack of time, and I think that's really a problem for small business owners because you're busy doing the work, and then you've got to go get the work as well, and it's really hard to balance those two things.
I think asking for help. I think once you've got some of those relationships, I think a lot of small business owners have a hard time just saying the word, I need your help.
I need your
and
help.
It's very simple, so they try and take these roundabout ways of getting to somebody and asking for help without saying, I could really use your help.
Yep. So asking for help. So there's a lot of barriers, and in our book we talk about them. There's two ways primarily to get around the barriers to networking. The first one is your mindset, and that is really appreciating that you have some value to add, that you are not bothering people, that you are confident in what you have to add, and you are willing to ask. It's really a mindset. And I can see an enormous difference with people I work with who finally the light bulb goes on. And it's not about going out and selling in the worst sense of the word. It's about going out and researching, asking questions, learning. If you go out with that attitude, it's a lot easier to think about networking to get business. So it is amazing when people finally get it. Things change within a week. I have seen people when they get that mindset right. The other thing is a lot of people don't know what to say. They don't know what to ask, but quite honestly, they don't know what to say. I was once working with the CEO of a pretty good sized company who had been successful for 15 years until one day the board decided they didn't want him there. Unfortunately, too common a story. And so we were working, we got his tools done, his resume, his strategy, and he wasn't doing anything. And finally, one day he closed the door and he said, I don't know what to say when people answer the phone. Okay, well, we can fix that. And so we worked on a statement that he could use, feel comfortable about on the phone when he called people or send via email. And he came back a week later and said, wow, it works every time. In his case, it was more of a research thing. He said to people, you know, I've had my head full bore down in XYZ company for 15 years. I am now trying to find out what else is going on around the Twin Cities. And people were more than happy to listen to him. So whatever your version of that statement might be, figure it out. We have a consultant friend who has a stock list of 4 questions. We have a lot of questions in the book that you can use even when you're at a cocktail party. But 4 stock questions he always has in his back pocket. And they are, what do you do? How long have you been doing it?
That's too hard. I can't ask.
You can't ask that one? Okay.
Keep going.
What do you like? How long have you been doing it? What do you love about what you do? And what kind of referrals can I help you with? Or what could I do for you? And that's all it takes to build relationships in all kinds of situations, whether you're at a cocktail party or you're sitting down with an informational interview. So our question is, what's your strategy for building your network? We know we work with a lot of consultants, and they go to a lot of networking meetings, and they go talk to people, but they don't have any strategy about why they're doing that. They're just hoping something comes out of it. So you have to be intentional. And about building the network, we really work with people on building what we call a AAA network. Acquaintances, allies, and advocates. So everybody needs to have a robust network and maintain it of those 3 types. Acquaintances are people that you've just met, but you have their email and their name, and you can reach out and ask them for something. What was my next one? Allies. That is people that know you well enough to be able to speak on your behalf. They've worked with you, they've been in a bowling league with you, they've gone to church with you, they've been a soccer parent with you, whatever, they can speak on your behalf. Advocates are the gold of your network. And does anybody feel like they have advocates here? And what do they do for you, Lori?
A lot of times it's just so unsolicited that they tell people, you know, if someone's looking for a workspace solution, you know, you need to go and talk to these people. This is where I'm having a great experience. And I said, sometimes even if we're showing space and walking around, people come out, it seems like we've almost paid them to come out and say, this is such a great place to work and welcome. It's unbelievable, the amount of people who are giving us referrals.
So we want advocates speak on your behalf, often without your asking. You said it perfectly. So you want to build a network with all that. When you complete a project, when you finish with a client, have you left behind a network of advocates? And have you make it when you go into a new client? So those are kind of the high points of what cultivating strategic relationships are all about. But you have to work at it consistently, but you can't personally know all the people that need to know about you in order to want to do business with you. Which brings us to the 3rd bucket, which is increasing your constructive visibility.
Great. And this is, you know, as Nancy just said, getting out from just the people that you can network with in your own community and be seen and known by a larger community. Some of you have businesses that serve not just the Twin Cities, but you can work with folks all over the world. So then you have to be seen and build relationships and with people in other parts of the country or world. So what are some of the things in terms of taking from just out of the networking realm into the larger world? What are some of the things that you have done or have seen people do to help become more visible and be seen as a thought leader? What are some of the actions you could take?
Social media.
You do. Okay. Okay. Social media is one. We're doing it. You can go and speak at office centers. That's one of the ways to do it.
Absolutely.
Right? So public speaking, going out, just getting in front of people. I don't know all of you, and now I do. So what else can you do?
Participate in a community activity that's ongoing so people can see the quality of the work.
Okay. Participate in an ongoing social community or a nonprofit or a board, something where you can actually work with people and get to know them and people that are outside of your immediate profession. It broadens your reach in your community. What else?
Be seen as an expert. So whether that is, blogging or writing articles for submission into news, other newsletters, magazines, publications, you position yourself as an expert so that it gets your name out there. You're not selling, you're just writing about something.
So she's saying writing articles or blogging or newspaper, all of that, and then using the social media to get it out there and get it visible. But that helps position you as an expert. Yeah,
I think that one of the things with small business people is you need to get out of your house. I mean, I think that in the morning that there's not a lot of people hanging around my coffee pot in my kitchen, and I think that people don't realize that just getting out with like-minded professionals and getting into a different sort of a groove and not being contained really impacts your bottom line and what you're going to do with your business.
If only there was a place to go.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's a business idea there.
Exactly.
So there are lots of options. One, you got to get out and you got to do something, right? Whether it's social media or blogging or writing, or you can start your own LinkedIn groups. You can, there's many things you can do. You can go out and speak and get involved with the press. You can go to conferences, you can get on panels, but it can get overwhelming without a strategy for what am I going to do and how am I going to do it? And a lot of us are just trying out a lot of different things and not having a strategy to pull it together. So one of the things we recommend is that you figure out what you want and who you want to be seen and known by, and then come up with a strategy that integrates some of these things, a project, instead of just, I've got to do this and this and this and this. But one project that you can focus on over time that's going to build that visibility in the marketplace. Nancy, why don't you tell a story about Natasha from our book?
Okay, well, in the book, we have a case study of a woman who was a marketing director in a good-sized organization and had ambitions to break that glass ceiling and move up to executive ranks, but just wasn't able to get any traction to do it. And found out that she'd lost out on an international assignment that she really wanted. So, and she felt she maybe was qualified. It was an international assignment, and she had taken one semester of Spanish and also been a foreign exchange student in another country. So she wasn't kind of known for knowing about international. So what she did was she got her boss's permission. She developed a project where she could tie in building relationships, being visible with the right people, and becoming a thought leader. She got the okay from her manager, and she decided to write an article for their local community newsletter on what does it take to get an international assignment? How do you have to best prepare to be successful in an international assignment? She got some introductions to her boss's colleagues and his boss's colleagues, and she just went and interviewed them. So this was in the spirit of research. She went and did a lot of interviewing of people. And then, so they got to know her. She was very confident in making those contacts, and she had the permission to back and ask them more questions. And through all of that, she wrote an article for her local company publication, and getting more confidence, she started talking with leaders in other organizations and wrote an article for the local professional association about international assignments. And ultimately, she got a little bit better reputation in her company, and she got the international assignment she was hoping for. Not overnight, but she did work her way to get it. So she was over in another country, And she came back, and then what happened, Richard?
Well, Natasha has quite an exciting career. So I love this first phase that she did because it integrated, as Nancy said, learning what she needed to learn, right? Talking to real professionals about what she needed to learn in order to get an international assignment. Building relationships she needed in order to get those opportunities, and creating kind of collateral material, right? An article with her byline associated with all those high-level people who knew what they were doing. So at that point, she was able to then get that assignment. When she came back, she decided, I'm going to start a consulting practice. I'm going to go out and help companies figure out how to increase their global presence. So I'm going to show you I'm going to use this here. Just some of the questions she had to walk through. In fact, you can help me. If you were Natasha, and what product, this is the question to ask yourself, right before you start strategizing to get organized around your plan, around thought leadership. And you got to start with, well, is there something you want to sell more of? What's something you want to sell more of? One product or service, or something that you can then focus on, because you can't sell everything, right? And at least from a marketing point of view, you want to focus on something. Is something here in your mind that, like, if you could sell one thing, what would it be? Anybody? Well,
I want to say 4 years ago, we decided we wanted to sell more virtual office plans. And at that time, we had 34 virtual office members. We now have 618 in 4 years. So, I think that there can be things that when you focus on one component of your business that can help you become successful if you can grow that portion, especially when you're looking at what's happening in today's marketplace. Something that you may have thought was a lesser product may come to the forefront again. So to look at all of your service offerings and think if there's something that you can pull out of there and make it,
you can put some focus on.
Right.
And then, what do you want to be known for, right? Is what comes out of it. What do you want to sell more of? What do you want to be known for? And Natasha wanted to be known for, being really competent at expanding global, and she had experience now doing that. So she knew what she wanted to be known for. Who is her audience? Who does she need to get in front of if she wants to grow this business? Who does Natasha need to get in front of?
Same person she was at the other company.
Who is the senior,
Marketing manager or whatever.
Right, it's got to be the senior leader of an organization or the senior marketing person. So that's the community she wants to build a relationship with. And then the question is, the way you build a relationship these days, at least if you're going online, right, is by adding value. I call it being relentlessly helpful, right? Because you can't, just by putting yourself out there, and I think we do all that social media, and we put stuff out, people might see your name, but if you're not adding things that people can use, that's what builds a relationship. So she needs to create something, a tool or a process or something that's consumable. Ideally, something she can trade for an email address, because ultimately she wants to build a community. She wants to build a list of people that she can build and add value to over time. So what's something that she might build? The kinds of things that you can offer are, it could be a PowerPoint presentation that educates an executive about how to think about something. It can be an infographic, right? That documents a process that people can download and go, this is useful, I like this, right? So something that can be consumed. What are some other things that you can create that are value add in the market?
Video.
Okay, you can make a video. You could teach how to do something. What else?
Webinars.
Okay,
Webinars,
webinars, right? It's a video, but a webinar where you're teaching something of value. It could be an online course, be a white paper or an ebook, but it's something that people will use. The idea is something of use, because that's what establishes authority, right? Is that I am providing value, something of use to people, and they go, oh, this person knows what they're doing. If I need help, I'm gonna reach out to that person and ask for help. So she could create an infographic or a white paper or something of value. And then, do you have a strategy, an online platform, to get that value in front of people who can use it? And that's where I'm going to talk in a minute about that. And then do you make it easy for people to opt into your list so that you have a relationship with them over time? And I can't stress this enough. The more I research, and I started a business a year ago called Artisan Digital, and it's focused on digital marketing. So I'm all geeking out about this stuff. But as I started learning search engine optimization and Facebook ads and all of that, the idea, I mean, what I learned was the money's in the list, right? In the end, in your business, if you want an ongoing sustainable business, you need to be thinking about how to get people onto your list. Because if you're just out there, people might get to know you, but if you don't capture them, you can't continue to build a relationship over time. So we talk a lot about platform. Have you heard of this? What's your platform online? Michael Hyatt has a book called Platform and a Platform University. And I like the idea of standing on a platform and you're able to be seen and project your message and ideally project your value and help people. But the way I am seeing the world unfold, I'm thinking it's, well, I changed the language on this. It's not changed on the slides. Let me tell you the new language. The idea was here is that you need an online platform. This is a minimum viable platform. Like, what's the basic that you need in place? I'm now calling it an online visibility system or an online visibility ecosystem, because you no longer have just a website or a blog, right? It used to be even that Google would rank a website. They don't anymore. Google looks at an ecosystem, at a whole network. Because what do real companies have? Real companies have more than just their website. They have a whole lot of social properties that surround it. They have LinkedIn, right? You need to have LinkedIn as part of your platform or part of your ecosystem. And it has to tie to your, and I'm saying, I think it's a good idea to have a website or a blog or something you own, a WordPress site that you control and own, that you can circle with all of these other properties. But LinkedIn is critical, obviously, because people are looking for you, you're credible there. Google Plus, people don't think about this, but if you want to rank, and I'm big into ranking stuff on Google because that's where people go and look for things, right? In social media, you can find people who are interested in what you're doing and they like, and they want to be a part of your community. They're not looking to buy when they're on Facebook. They're looking for something when they're in Google or they're in YouTube and they're looking for the best marketing, services in the Twin Cities. Well, you want stuff to show up on page 1 of Google for that. And so Google will not rank you if you're not in Google Plus, because that's their core thing. They look at that and go, oh, this is a real business because they have a Google Plus listing. Because they own, they need to know that. So you need Google Plus for some reason. Twitter, you don't need to tweet a lot, but you need to have an account that has a little bit of activity. So it looks like your real. YouTube should have at least 3 videos. One, something about, hey, here's who I am and what I do. One that's a testimonial, ideally, from a customer. Says, hey, I work with this person, they're really great. And a how-to video, something that adds value. Those would be all you need. But if you have those 3 and then you're tying them in, you're posting them in other places, you're showing Google in part that you're a large entity. And Facebook, your personal, and then you need a professional Facebook page. These are the things that all businesses are going to have. And so you need to build these. If you're going to build your own small business, I would say you'd want to build these things out. And then there's a lot of other sites. When we build out entities for people, we'll build out another 20 social media sites and things just to show Google that you're giant. And then the idea is you tie all of these together, and there's ways to do that. So they don't just float around, but you're tying them together. And then the challenge is, I won't go into this, is how do you automate as much as possible so you don't have to spend a lot of time. But if you post something into your blog that it automatically bounces and posts in other places, and some of you are doing that. I know it'll tweet at the same time that you post into LinkedIn. But there's a software called If This Then That, IFTTT, If This Then That, that will help you set up systems. Say if you do this, then this and this and this, and it'll keep it going. So, and the last thing on this is what Google does when they have a system like this is instead of ranking a single site, they will rank the whole system. Right? So they see it tied together, and all of those properties can end up ranking on page 1, 2, or 3. So you end up dominating page 1, which is nice. But this is what you need as a baseline to kind of start establishing your visibility and putting out your message out into the world.
Okay, so just to show you a recap, we tried to give some highlights of each of the types, and this is on the handout that you should have in front of you. Positioning yourself, it's about knowing your brand. First of all, being worthy, doing good work, knowing your brand, and being able to talk about your accomplishments. Cultivating strategic relationships. That mindset, getting a mindset and getting a strategy. So we are hoping that you'll continue to expand relationships. We have a lot of very nitty-gritty. Here's what a first email could look like. Here's what a first phone call could be like. Here are some questions to ask when you're in that first meeting with people. And then finally, increasing your visibility. Richard talked about the social media being seen as a thought leader. We also have things like, how do you maximize meetings and conferences? What do you do before the conference to make sure that you're going to connect with the right people? We even have a section on working the room, something even the most raging extroverts don't love to do always. And how do you get into conversations? How do you get out of conversations? And then the social media that Richard talked about. So there's a myriad of things. You can go to our website. We have downloadable resources, including this one is a networking strategy, a networking plan for a year. So if you're at a place right now where you'd like to expand your network, here's a plan you can do in about an hour a week if you really work at it and be intentional about it. And a year from now, you can have a much more robust network to be referring business to. Okay, before we end, we'd like to...
Yeah, we do want you, we're going to just 2 more minutes here. We want you to fill this form out, and we're going to have a concluding moment. While you're filling this out, we have a question for you. But ideally, we're also looking for your help. We have to ask for help. In our own visibility, we are looking for opportunities to speak or places that we might be able to come and add value. So if you have ideas for that, we'd love to hear them. If you're interested in the online visibility system, I'm working on a white paper around that. If you just put a check mark, I'll make sure I get that information. Like to get on our mailing list, we'd love to have you. We put out periodic updates and newsletters about tactful self-promotion. And so this would just be really helpful for us if you would fill this out. And there's going to be a bonus. Those who fill this out, we're going to have a drawing.
And give it to us.
And give it to us. There's going to be a drawing for...
I did a copy of the book.
Yay!
For those who are here in the Park Center, for those of you who are on other sites, if you would get your forms to whoever collects them, we'll get them here and we will give another book away to somebody from one of the other sites and we will let you know who that is. Okay.
Now, well, right.
Not quite yet, Lori. 1 minute.
Well, don't we have a minute? Yeah. All right. So the last thing is just, we'd love to hear just what's one thing just something that stands out for you or some action that you plan to take. Because this is all about doing just something, not everything.
It can be overwhelming. And all you need to do is be ready, be prepared, and be able to leverage moments. So what's one thing you can do that can leverage your own self and increase your visibility and promote yourself better? What's one thing you might do? Any takeaways? Yes.
I think the way you kind of described the idea of an ecosystem is really valuable. Just kind of see for most people to understand how the whole thing works or why Google works that way. They think just build a website. So I thought that was really valued.
Good. That's great. Good. What else? Something else that somebody's going to
Yes.
take away.
I think when you're meeting someone else or someone greets you, just not saying, "Oh, I'm fine."
Yeah.
Just going into what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And everything like
Not thank God it's Friday or oh Mondays are horrible. Yes. Okay. Right.
Great. And come and show up with others.
Right. Good. So as we said at the beginning, you are always promoting something. It could be, it could be fine. It could be great. And we hope you found a few things that you can go out in the world and increase your visibility and promote yourself.
One thing we know you can do is learn more, study more, and read this book. Now somebody's about to win this
Sorry.
book. Let's grab
We only-
these things in the room or collecting them. You start to turn these things in
We
other
only have two,
locations.
so you have a good chance.
So, well, we got more coming.
Okay.
Yeah, they're coming.
Later,
There
that
we
was
go.
yes.
Okay.
Ooh, it's ready, and it comes with a
Alright.
bookmark as well.
Okay, yes,
So,
and we'll even sign it, so I
you want to pick
am.
one of these? So
Lori?
you're not prejudiced.
Okay.
Lori's gonna grab
I'll pick number 2.
and
And it's Kevin Ellinger.
Woo!
Woo! Kevin, great. Well, thank you all, and we will look for your sheets, and we will be around to answer questions. We can get books to you if you're interested, and we can, we'll let you know who wins the book.
And another surprise for both of you, Nancy and Richard, is that Corey was taping this, and as of tomorrow, it will be on our YouTube channel. And if you go to the website under community, we just put in a new tab with all the videos so that you can go back, and there's even a link that you can put in, Nancy. And I really think that this was such a great presentation that we'll put it in this week at Office Centers and say, if you missed this, here's the link so that they can watch and see what happens. And if you would love to promote your business, or if there's something that you think you can teach this group, or please let us know, because we're always looking for great people to present topics, because we do say that we are looking for, we always have innovative workplace solutions, and we're looking to connect and collaborate in our community. So all of our community members are eligible to come in and do a lunch and learn or a presentation if they want to promote their business or a topic that might be timely to others in the community. So thank you so much today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Are you Anna?